Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
It's going good, man. Not too many weeks left in the NBA regular season, which means the push for the playoffs is almost over. The teams are almost set. We got a couple of squads that have finally clinched their position in the postseason as well. Maybe not necessarily their seed, but they've clinched their position as a participant in the playoffs. So that's good to see that things are starting to shore up. I'm sure the Celtics were feeling a little lonely there as the only team that clinched for a little minute.
Yeah, I swear they got it on I swear they clinched in game 54 or 55. It's been a hot minute since someone caught up to them.
Yeah, they've been good. They've been more than good, more than situated. So yeah, now we're on the final push towards the start of the playoffs. The play-in tournament is looking more and more intriguing by the day. And yeah, man, got good basketball every night, it feels like at this point.
Exactly. Just look at the standings, and each and every night there seems to be some sort of implications between 4 or 5 teams. So this is this is where the NBA thrives. We are heading into the play-in, which is in about less than 2 weeks. We're gonna talk about the play-in. We're gonna talk about previewing the playoffs and everything. But this is one of our final episodes in terms of recapping the whole season, because guys, it's time for TV and J's NBA award show. So of course we're gonna go through all of the awards: MVP, Rookie of the Year, even Clutch Player of the Year, this and that. We're gonna talk about all today, and I think it's gonna be another fantastic episode that we have coming up for you guys. And of course we're gonna end things off with the quiz and draft as well. So you already know you're on the Hit Your Free Throws podcast when you have all of that coming in front of you. But yeah, it's gonna be a great episode. But before we get into it, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our individual socials at TV on Basketball, at The Routine Jumper. Those links can be found in the description down below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, for daily NBA content, check out the TikTok and Instagram. Lots of different content there with the clips, daily NBA picks challenge, updated news, Filter Fridays, which I just started last week. There's so much content you can check over there at the Hit Your Free Throws pages, TikTok and Instagram. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. And if you're listening on any of the podcast networks, Spotify or Apple, show love in any way possible. Subscribe, follow the pages, all that good stuff. We really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Jay, there's a bunch of awards going to. There's going to be some discussion here. Are you ready to get into our what? This is our second annual award show?
Yeah, second annual, and I feel pretty good about it this time. I feel like last time I was a little unprepared, but I feel like the NBA race is also a little bit better understood this year with all the parity. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yes, and to make things nice and easy over here, we're going to start with the first-year players with our first topic, and we're going to be going with Rookie of the Year. The way we're going to do these NBA awards, by the way, before we get into Rookie of the Year, we're going to be listing our 3 nominees from 3 to 1. Number 1 being our official winner of the category. Then we're going to discuss each award afterwards. So, Jay, I'm going to throw it over to you. Who are your 3 nominees for Rookie of the Year, and who was your eventual winner?
Okay, so MVP,
Rookie of the Year. Rookie of the Year.
Sorry, Rookie of the Year. Okay, so Rookie of the Year. Okay, well, that's even easier, actually, because I've been pretty consistent as of late. So my 3, for me personally, is I've got Brandon Miller at 3, Chet Holmgren at 2, and then Victor Wembanyama at 1.
I have the same thing. We talked a lot about the rookies and stuff last week as well when it came to, again, Brandon Miller and all these guys being in the race. But I guess we'll go through this quickly. We know that Victor Wembanyama is going to win Rookie of the Year. What do you have to say about this, about your 3 choices and ultimately Wembanyama winning?
I mean, I think that personally, the guy I'm going to start with first is actually Brandon Miller. He's a guy that I feel like has actually had a very underrated all-rookie campaign. He's one of those guys that because he's not as flashy, he's not getting as much pub as a top 3, and in his case, taking number 2 overall pick would normally be in past draft classes. Ironically, Paulo Banchero, who's a former number 1 overall pick, also falls into this category of balling out but not getting a lot of pub. Brandon Miller is averaging 17 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 2.4 assists, and he's shooting 37% from beyond the arc on decent like splits this year. If you look at specifically what he's been able to do just within the last month, which everybody seems to be clinging to, I'm talking about all these Jalen Green people out here, by the way, not trying to disrespect y'all, but I hear y'all, I see y'all. 18.6 points, 5.3 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and 36% from three on 8 3-point attempts per game just in the month of March. Like, the dude has been really solid. I understand that, again, it's kind of like he's more of a substance over flash kind of player, but he's already got one of the prettiest jump shots in the NBA. Stamp that down as it is. And he's been really productive on this team. And Charlotte's going to be a really interesting team to see next year, especially depending on how they decide to go about this draft. But if you look at it, they're also headed in a really strong direction. I don't know if people saw this, but news also dropped today that head coach Mitch Kupchak is also be stepping down, and he's going to be
Steve Clifford.
Or yes. Steve Clifford, excuse me. Steve Clifford. Yeah, sorry. I'm thinking about somebody else that needs to step down. But Steve Clifford is stepping down and actually going to be working within the front office. I think that's actually going to benefit them a lot because I feel as though there's a philosophy that they need to establish. And although I think Steve Clifford helps as a defensive-based coach, they need somebody who can maximize LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller on the offensive side of the ball. You also look at their change in ownership recently. That's going to be huge as well because I think that's also going to affect how they go about their building system. You already see that with certain things like trading for the treasure trove of getting like Grant Williams, Seth Curry, all those guys, whatever. So that's one of those things where I'm a lot higher on Brandon Miller now than maybe I was when things started, and I'm a lot more optimistic about his future at that wing spot. And they might want to test him at the 2 guard. The Paul George comparisons are really interesting. People need to remember that Paul George actually started as a 2, and it really helped him early in his career. Might want to test that theory with Brandon Miller too. Just intrigued by the thought of it. Chet Holmgren, Mr. Consistent on an Oklahoma City Thunder team that is just really good. And he's been able to step in and add his value as a two-way player that's got low volume, low usage, but does everything you need him to do and does it in a way that's very effective on both ends. And then Vic, I'm sorry, bro, but I can't keep doing the alien talk with Victor Wembanyama. Just the dude. Somebody said on Twitter that we're gonna start calling the quadruple double the Wemby in 2 years. There you go. That summarizes it for me.
He's gonna get it. I mean, just repeat what you said. Brandon Miller has had a very good campaign, and I think the reason no one's really talking about it is, well, Wemby is insane, and second, 2 has just been disappointing, and people all expected him to be like second best in this draft class right away. That might not be the case in 5 years, but right now he is disappointing. I think a lot of attention's on that. But Brandon Miller's just been like super consistent, like you mentioned. They're finally giving him like consistent starter minutes and giving him like near number one option type of role. I know they're still giving Miles Bridges a lot of opportunities, but still, he's been really good. And I think that's his 3-point shot, especially. I think that's going to just continue to grow and grow. He's already one of the more fluid young players in the league, and just the smoothness of his game, you could just see it in the Paul George comparison. So he's been really good, and I think he's just continuing to get better. He's the clear number 3 here. At number 2, Chet Holmgren. I feel bad for Chet just because it was a race for like 2 to 3 months there at the beginning, basically up until January. And like even in some rankings, people had Chet at number 1. But then Wemby just the Spurs finally put Wemby in the center position, and that's when he became like a rookie god. And then he basically just pulled away from there. But Chet has had a really good season, obviously on one of the top 2 teams in the West, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he's just been so good on both ends of the floor. He's had to do a lot more now, by the way, because Jalen Williams and SGA have been missing the last couple games. But he's been great. He is the clear number 2 here, especially because he's basically been in the race the entire year. And then Wembanyama, what else can you say? He's not a rookie. I mean, like, we might have this discussion in the postseason, in the offseason, but is this guy already a top 20 player? Is a real conversation around that. Is he already the 3rd best center in the league? There's a real conversation around that, especially with the way he's playing right now. So Wembanyama is the clear winner. Probably one of the best rookie seasons, especially in the modern day that we've seen, especially with the amount of like the fact that he's like leading the league in blocks, the defense is there. the passing, the rebounding, the scoring, everything is there with Wembanyama. And yeah, he's just the clear number one.
Yeah, like I said, there's not too much to say. I mean, honestly, you can make the argument that Wembanyama has played a tale of two seasons, where you can make. I think some people have made the analogy that like everything before the All-Star break, or more specifically the turn of the calendar year, was like the rookie season, and everything kind of like at least like post trade deadline at the latest is like Wemby's sophomore year, right? And then next year is gonna be like when he really, really puts it all together. If you're already viewing it from that perspective, where the man is advanced himself career wise a year deep while still playing within the same season, that just goes to show you the kind of leap that he's taken. And I mean, he's gonna come up in a later discussion as well. Maybe not as the winner, but as somebody that I think is gonna deserve real merit. Yeah, real recognition. I think that's also equally as impressive.
Yeah. So yeah, for both of us, easy choice here. Wembanyama winning Rookie of the Year. Moving on to the next award. It's the guys that took the biggest jump. We are moving on to Most Improved. Now, when there's different ways you can go about this. At some years, it's the guy that comes out of nowhere and really becomes like one of the best, like an all-star who's someone that you weren't expected to be. Sometimes it's the guy going from star to superstar. There's a lot of ways you can go about this. But Jay, I'm going to throw it over to you. Who are your three nominees for Most Improved, and who is your ultimate winner?
Okay, so it was tough because I did take my bias out of it because that would be cheating. So the three guys that I had were I had Jalen Williams at number 3, Jalen Williams for OKC, J Dub. I still put my guy Kobe White at 2. Just gotta do that. And then I think the guy who's ultimately gonna win it is probably Tyrese Maxey.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'll let those two choices are there. Number 3 for myself. Even though he got injured, Alperen Şengün. I still had him as my number 3 there.
Cool.
Number 2. I don't know. Number 2, I have Tyrese Maxey. And at number 1, I got Kobe White.
That makes me feel so much better now. That makes me feel so much better now. Because honestly, I think
No.
I think Kobe White is the most deserving of the award. And I think that he's just not going to get it because people are going to see Tyrese Maxey make his leap under the circumstances that this team has been dealing with. And they're going to say that with him doing what he's done, playing James Harden replacement, so to speak, that narrative wise, he's going to win the award. But if you talk about actual from season to season jump, Kobe White is your 2024 most improved player. I'm sorry. If we're talking strictly about,
are we switching it off?
Bro, no, I gotta put Kobe at 1. I'm sorry. I feel a lot better about it now that I'm not now that the Bulls fan on the podcast isn't the one who went out and did it first. Now I feel better actually doing it. In my heart of hearts, I think that TV. I'm gonna let you read the stats, but in my heart of hearts, when you talk about most improved player, you're talking about a guy who makes a significant jump from one year to the other. I think Jalen Williams, for example, is a guy who I think is improved as a go-to number 2 offensive option in ways that he wasn't last year. So statistically, he has taken a significant increase, and his role has made him a real Robin to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he is now already becoming one of the most physical offensive threats at the wing position, right? A very highly prized position because there's not a lot of elite talent there aside from the upper echelon guys we all know, the KDs, the Bronze, so on and so forth, right? Jimmy Butler, whatever like that. I mess with Tyrese. Tyrese had the whole world on fire when the season started, when Philly was good. I think there also has to be something notable about the fact that Philly really, really tailed off when Joel Embiid went out. And don't get me wrong, I understand you're losing an MVP candidate, right? But when you tail off completely to the point that you're a below 500 caliber team with still having solid talent on the Philadelphia 76ers and Tyrese Maxey, who's viewed as this guy who's taken a significant step. No, Tyrese Maxey is in the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander camp where he makes micro adjustments every single year that pay dividends into his overall growth. Tyrese Maxey has gotten better every year. We've seen it. We've seen it. Kobe White was somebody that before the year started, we weren't sure if he was even a starting point guard. That was the conversation around Kobe White, was whether or not the Chicago Bulls needed to potentially move him, considering the fact that he might not even be a starting point guard. Now we're looking at him as a guy that, especially with the DeMar DeRozan contract coming up, the Zach LaVine BS taking place, and the fact that outside of that, there's no real cornerstone pieces that are established, Kobe White might be the guy that the Bulls mess around and build around now. That's not a conversation we were having 6 months ago.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to get into Kobe White really quick, but I'm going to go into my top three. Of course, even though his season ended prematurely, Alperen Şengün, I think that his case, like, would have been better if he kind of closed out the season. But you just gotta look at what it is. 21 points per game, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. The Rockets realized that he was their best player, and Ime Udoka finally ran the offense through him, and he did that to the absolute max. He was a fringed NBA All-Star this year. I don't think his case was made enough compared to these two guys, compared to these two, especially with Maxey with the ridiculous stats and Kobe White with more of the out of nowhere sort of season, especially with the way that he was regressing. But Şengün definitely, in terms of like finally getting his like own team and him being the number one guy, he's taking it to the max. And people call him Baby Jokic for a reason. It just sucked that his season ended prematurely. Tyrese Maxey. I was on the Tyrese Maxey again. Same with you on the I mean, maybe not you, but I was on the Tyrese Maxey bandwagon for rookie most improved for the longest time. Then the Philadelphia 76ers start slipping, and I will say about Tyrese Maxey is that we kind of known that this was in him all along. It's just we knew that there was someone in front of him that was always like getting in the way of him being the number two. Whether it was James Harden back in the day, whether it was Ben Simmons, even if you want to track back to earlier times, there was always that number two getting into the way of him being like a great number two. He's shown that this year, and he's done a great job in trying to at least to keep the 76ers like floating, because they've been kind of low-key. People haven't talked about how kind of before Joel Embiid got back from injury, how disastrous it's been for the Philadelphia 76ers, but they're like number 8 right now. But he's kind of the one who's just been keeping them above water. We knew the stats were coming, especially with Joel Embiid coming out, but his efficiency has gone down. His turnovers have gone up, and he's doing this on like one of the highest minutes per game throughout the entire league. I'm not saying that Tyrese Maxey doesn't deserve to be in this conversation, but there's just a lot of like compounding factors that people are like that are leading to this like kind of jump in numbers. But Kobe White, you imagine him not even being a starting caliber point guard. He was like at this point kind of like John Collins, how we talked about in the past, where he was in trade rumors for years now, for absolute years, because how is he going to fit in the lineup with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan when they're the ones taking all the buckets? Kobe White has figured this stuff out now, and he was a starter before, and he was doing this on poor efficiency. People like didn't think he was a starting point guard in the league. Many Bulls fans believe that his like best like bet was him coming off the bench, and we've seen what that happened these last couple of years. Was not good. Zach LaVine, again, situation went down, but he was put back into a situation that he was in before, but he took advantage of it this year. If anything, he was more of an all-star consideration, more up for all-star consideration than DeMar DeRozan. Just one of the most underrated guards in the league right now, and he is someone who has become a potential trade piece to someone that the Bulls. This is like one of their very few long-term pieces they need to hold on to. I don't know what's going to happen with Patrick Williams. I don't know what's going to happen with some of your other young guys. But Kobe White is the guy that no matter what, whatever happens with Zach LaVine, whatever happens to DeMar DeRozan, you need to keep this guy on for long-term. Kobe White is my most improved.
Hey, man, like I said, if we're taking fandom out of it, I still think that the logic is the logic. I mean, we define most improved as taking a significant step from the year prior to this year where we not only see the statistics change, but our viewpoint narrative wise of that player is significantly different. Kobe White last year averaged 9.7 points per game, 2.9 rebounds, and 2.8 assists while shooting 37%, yes, from three, but on less than 5 attempts per game, and was getting to the free throw line less than once a game. This year, he is averaging 19.3 points per game, 5.2 assists, 4.7 rebounds, getting to the line almost 4 times a game, and he's shooting 7 threes a game, and now he's up the efficiency still while taking 3 more threes a game at 38.3%. And he's basically playing just as many minutes as well. He's played 23.4 minutes last year. He's played 36.7 minutes this year, and he's basically not missed a game.
Career highs across the board, man. Career highs across the board for Kobe White. I'm surprised. I mean, like, look, Tyrese Maxey might still end up winning this, but we got to shout out to Kobe White, man. Truly, true improvement, and to flip the narrative of what he was going through these last couple of years, especially like with the amount of like rumors that he's been around about him being traded, to having the season he's having this year. Shout out to him, man. He's been really killing it. Move on to the next award, though. Show love to the guys on the bench, man. We are going to the sixth man of the year. Now, this is usually a award going to the guy with the highest points per game. Maybe there's other factors you want to put into it, but damn, I throw it back over to you. Your 3 nominees for sixth man of the year and your ultimate winner.
Well, first of all, let's make this clear. Sixth man of the year cannot be who puts up the most points anymore. That's just like not gonna cut it. Just like we gotta start understanding that. I think that's how the award has always been decided to a certain extent. But if we're being honest, that cannot be the criteria in this high 3-point era that we're in, with a bazillion of possessions, a lot of offensive creation. How you score cannot strictly dictate like your sixth man of the year candidacy. We need to be able to take into account things like, are you closing games for your team? Are you like in the closing 5 for your team? How do you participate in the clutch situations for your team? Are you one of the lead initiators on your second unit in terms of creating overall offense? Are you interchangeable with certain starting units? Like, these are the type of things that need to go deeper than just, do you put up a lot of points? Because putting up a lot of points works, and it's definitely super effective in this league. But I don't think that can be a singular like contributor. So, excuse me, the 3 guys that I have are, I'm going to switch these guys around. My boy Nas Reed is at 3.
Okay.
And this goes against my points philosophy to an extent, but I'll explain to an extent why I think he is so important this year. Number 2 for me is actually Norman Powell for the Clippers.
Yeah.
Who has been insane for them and like the only thing breathing off the bench sometimes offensively. But there's a lot of other things that he brings to the table. And then the last guy, and the guy who I think is going to win the damn thing, is Malik Monk.
Okay. You know what? We have the same winner, and we have the same 3 guys, but in different order. So number 3, okay, I have Norman Powell. Number 2, I got Nas Reed. And number 1, I have Malik Monk. And trust me when I say this, for the longest, when I was deciding this, I really want to give it to Nas Reed, the Sixth Man of the Year award. But I ended up giving it to Malik Monk. Even though he just got injured, I'm still going to give it to Malik. But yeah, talk about your guys and like your reasoning for why Malik Monk should win the Sixth Man of the Year.
So Norman Powell is just super effective off the bench as an offensive punch for an LA Clippers team that, despite the fact that their payroll is so high, they're really not as deep as we thought they were. Like, nobody realized this, but or most people, if you're smart enough, pay attention to the games and stuff like that. And that's not me being disrespectful, but like, if you pay attention, when the LA Clippers watched Russell Westbrook go down with the broken hand or with the messed up hand, they were starting Bones Highland at point guard.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Bones Highland, but that's not the guy that you need generating offense for yourself or helping initiate offense on this kind of team. A young player trying to still define their role in the NBA, playing around two superstars who need the rock, who need to be able to play at a certain pace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Norman Powell provides a certain level of stability on both sides of the ball, but specifically on the offense as a guy who can slow the bleeding for a team that, again, is not nearly as deep as their payroll would indicate. Specifically, when you look at the fact that name after Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, name the next shot generator. I understand that most people would say it's James Harden. I don't disagree with that. But in terms of high volume shot generator, in terms of their role, the third guy is Norman Powell. Russell Westbrook is an energy guy. He's a guy who brings pace to their team. James Harden is a table setter. He has certain nights where he drops 20 something and things of that nature. But we've noticed just by his assist totals, he is a guy who understands that he is a table setter for this team. In terms of overall shot generation, Norman Powell is the next gunner up as a dude who is his primary skill set is to generate quality looks. And that's huge for this team because, especially on their second unit, there's not a lot of offense coming out of that. So he's huge. Naz Reid, anybody who can come in and fill the role of Karl Anthony Towns at the power forward position and give equal, if not maybe a little beneath the overall productivity that Cat was giving, that's huge. Like for Naz Reid to step in the Karl Anthony Towns role and essentially the Timberwolves not lose a beat, that is super important. And also will be very reflective this summer because again, I feel like I bring this up at least once a month when it comes to Minnesota, but they're playing for a lot because this is a team that could potentially have an insane payroll and some very interesting decisions to make in terms of their overall roster construction and who they can and cannot keep. Karl Anthony Towns being at the top of that list with what he has as a contract right now. Naz Reid makes that decision a little bit easier. Not it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it easier when you know that you can get a discounted price on similar productivity from a power forward playing next to Rudy Gobert. So that's a testament to how good Naz Reid is more than anything. And then number one, Malik Monk. I said everything beforehand. Does he close games with his team? Yes. Is he an offensive shot generator on the second unit and next to first unit players? Yes. Is he? I think you can make an argument, and most people probably will, that he's the third best player on his team, right? So these are all things that lead in his favor, not just the fact that he's a high volume scorer, but this is a guy that the Sacramento Kings genuinely trust to initiate and create for this team, whether he starts, which he hasn't done a lot, but or whether he plays with the starters or he's coming off the bench.
Yeah. That's what Malik Monk. And honestly, ever since he's moved to the Kings, he's been like that. And like he's looking like, I mean, like we looked for from these last 2 years, the third most important player. The third most important player. He is like someone who you can even go to at the end of game for these type of shots. So he is like very important to that team. But yeah, Norman Powell number 3. His usage rate has dropped by like 5% this year, but he's gotten more efficient. And that's just because Russell Westbrook is just running the offense. That's what's just happening point tempo, and they of course added James Harden to the mix, so that just takes away more opportunities from Norman Powell. But still, his like his efficiency numbers are actually pretty ridiculous. Almost 50% from the field, 44% from three, and 83% at the line. He's like attempting more threes than he did last year. He's like automatic from there. Still to 14 points per game. Last year he was fourth in six man of the year, and I think this year because of his impact and the way that he comes off the bench and just does his role takes advantage of the minutes he's given and like maximizes his time on the floor. He has that, what would I say, like the respect of like voters in terms of like what he's been able to do his entire career, especially with the Raptors and now with the Clippers being in that 6-man role, and he's doing it to like hit to the highest ability. He's still like an underrated defender in my opinion. If you see from the Raptors days, you know what I'm talking about, but he's just been like like one of the better bench players off the bench players in the league. He's been for the last couple of years, and I think that he's going to be close. Again, he's going to be in the discussion for 6 man of the year. I just don't think he's going to be at the top. Naz Reid, the only reason, like I mentioned, he's not number one for me is I feel like the starter minutes are really like increasing the volume a little bit, and then that's not just like I think that kind of goes against his case just because Karl Anthony Towns he has to start there, and I don't know if the starter minutes like kind of like bleed into kind of the six man of the year argument because those numbers are being inflated or such, but still one of the better six man bench players in the league, and the fact that he's included a 3-point shot this year, people have to realize this. Like he's becoming a very consistent 3-point shooter this year, has just done wonders for this team. Minnesota loves him. He's becoming one of the NBA fan favorites. He deserves to be in this conversation. Sadly, he's not going to win it. But Malik Monk, he like I honestly even like going back to the Lakers days, he went from someone who potentially was in like NBA purgatory and the Charlotte Hornets, not knowing where he's gonna end up next, to someone who is no matter what gonna find himself into an NBA contract because not only is he one of the best bench scorers off the bench, but is someone who you're gonna give him the ball and you're gonna expect him not to make too many mistakes. He's improved his playmaking. He knows when to take the shot when he needs to, and then you could play him at the end of games, unlike many other six men who have been in this conversation. In terms of the Sacramento Kings, kind of has the Lou effect as that he did with the LA Clippers. He's been their third best player, and he's gonna continue to do that. And hopefully, he gets ready for the playoffs. I think they might need to have a little bit of a run for him to return to the playoffs, but him even improving on to his numbers last year, having a much more prominent role, still coming off the bench. I think Malik Monk is worthy of having the Six Man of the Year award.
Yeah, last word on Malik Monk. Tyler Hero got 4 years, 120 recently, right? That's also kind of the Jordan Poole territory.
Yeah.
Because Malik Monk is older than those guys, obviously the number is going to be a little bit different. Malik Monk should be looking at anywhere between 23 and I believe $27 million a year. If it maybe on shorter contract, maybe he's a 2 or a 3 year guy. But Malik Monk is staring at anywhere between 23 and $27 million a year with the way that he's playing. And if he has an insane playoffs, which he has the possibility to do, he could play himself into being even more prominent than that. And there are definitely a couple of teams across the league that two guard spot is glaring, and Malik Monk's on-ball presence as a passer this year also makes him really interesting across the board for teams like the Spurs, like the Orlando Magic. Hey, put two Kentucky guards together again and put them next to Tyrese Maxey in Philadelphia, who has a lot of money, right? There's a lot of different options that he has where he might be an upwards of $25 million plus player with the way he's playing right now. And like you said, we're talking about a guy coming from NBA purgatory career-wise. So he has really, really done good and well for himself over these last 2 years with Sacramento. And maybe he'll stay just because it's been good for his career. Who knows?
At this point, the Kings would be stupid not to bring him back. He's been such a huge part of that team. I know you're gonna have to pay some young guys eventually, but Malik Monk has been just a staple of your resurgence as a franchise. So you kind of have to ride it out with him. Even though you might have to pay him, he's been worthy of that money, and he's been proving it, especially in these 2 years that he's been with the Kings so far. Now we're gonna step away from the court for a little bit and go onto the bench because we're looking at the bench bosses here. Coach of the year. Again, different ways you can go about this. Best coach, best team in the league. You can even go most surprising. You can go maybe most improvement brought to the team, this or that. Jay, who are your 3 nominees and your eventual winner?
So with this one, Coach of the Year is pretty intriguing because there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. But in its totality, the 3 I ended up going with is Jamal Mosley for the Orlando Magic, Chris Finch for Minnesota, and then I'm gonna go with the guy that I feel like has been leading the race almost the entire year, and that's Mark Daigneault for the Oklahoma City Thunder at 1.
Jay. Again, we're on the same wavelength. Number 3, Jamal Mosley. Number 2, closer to anything but Chris Finch, and number 1, Mike Daigneault. So we basically got the same.
Okay.
So, yeah, we basically got the same. Jay, throw it over to you.
This one is I don't want to say it's like simple, but TV coach of the year, right? And this is specifically when you're addressing people like Joe Mazzulla, for example, who I thought has been amazing this year in terms of being able to manage all of the different talent on this team. The flip side of it is we also have a hard time during the regular season understanding the impact coaching has when you have a team like the Celtics who sent two people to the All-Star game, could have sent a third in Kristaps Porzingis and had a fourth in Derek White of all people having real consideration. So you have a tough angle trying to identify where his coaching prowess comes from, unless you're like real deep into watching Boston Celtics basketball, right? Which I can openly admit I do not. From my cable vantage point, I watch the Wizards dang near every day. So not elite basketball by any means, right? So obviously when you watch the Boston Celtics, there is a change in pace. But you still get lost in the shuffle of his impact on a team when they're this talented, which we knew coming into the year. Jamal Mosley for Orlando. Now, look, if you're people like me, again, not poking my chest out on this podcast, but if there's one thing I said before the year started, is that my team to watch was the Orlando Magic. That was the cart I was I was latching on to. The year before was the Sacramento Kings. Shout out to the Sacramento Kings for making me right last year. Shout out to the Orlando Magic this year for making me right this year. This team has taken a significant step defensively across the board. Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner, I wouldn't say have taken major leaps in any way, but they've both been very consistent in a way that's kept them afloat. And Jalen freaking Suggs, 40% from the 3-point line. One of the best perimeter defenders, if not maybe the best perimeter defender at the guard position already. My boy is looking like Avery Bradley with a 3-point sniper this year. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's got this young team playing defense at a high level. The offense is scary, but they don't have a very strong lead guard position yet. That's something that I think they still need to address in the offseason. Shout out Trey Young. Shout out who's another guy who I think Anthony Simons, right? These are guys that they might want to take a look at. Malik Monk. These are all guys you might want to take a look at in terms of being able to generate better offense at the guard position. We'll get there in the offseason when we do offseason outlook stuff. But in terms of Orlando, defensively, it's made up for their shortcomings offensively in a big way. So Jamal Mosley has a lot to do with that when you talk about a young basketball team like this. Chris Finch, Minnesota. I told you from the beginning of the year, Minnesota's been playing this year like a team that has their hair on fire. They're a team that understands the urgency of the way this year looks. And Chris Finch has made it clear that this is not a season that can just go by the wayside, regardless of Karl Anthony Towns injuries. Jaden McDaniels has missed time, right? Rudy Gobert missed a lot of time in the early portion, or not a lot of time, but he missed significant time in the early portions, right? And this team has been able to keep themselves trudging along. And then Mark Daigneault, I'm sorry, you cannot tell me. Everybody said this might be the year for the Oklahoma City Thunder to make that playoff leap. Nobody, dare you check social media across the board, thought they were going to be a top 3 team in the Western Conference. Nobody. This team might mess around and be the best team in the Western Conference record-wise by the end of the season. Nobody thought they were going to be top 3. So that's his easy campaign right there.
Yeah, no, I have to 100% agree with you there. I think with all these 3 coaches, there's something extra compared to coaches like maybe a Mike Malone or like a Joe Mazzulla, where you have to take a team that was kind of not down in the dumps, but you have to like set the culture there. You have to like start from scratch sort of and build your way up. That's what Jamal Mosley had to deal with. Mike Daniels, same thing. And to a certain extent, Chris Finch after they got rid of Ryan Saunders. These guys had to take what they had, kind of deal with like, I wouldn't say like maybe like a rebuilding situation, and then kind of build themselves up to like a top 4, top 3 seed in their specific conference. Jamal Mosley literally had a number 1 pick last season. They had the number 1 overall pick. And what he has done is inserted a defensive identity. He looked at a lot of the guys on the roster. Sure, we don't have the true point guard yet. Well, you know what we do have? A bunch of lengthy guys, a bunch of guards who are willing, who are great point of attack defenders, and we're just gonna get under people's skins the entire season. That's what he's been able to do. That's why they have a top 3 defense. Chris Finch, he has been like finally gets a full season with this healthy team, takes advantage. People were doubting his coaching ability last year and trying to make all this work. He's finally proving that like what the Timberwolves saw in him. Mark Daniel started literally the definition of start from the bottom, and we're here. But the difference is between all these 3 guys is that, like you mentioned, Daniel, the Thunder were expected to be in the play-in picture. I don't want to say that they were expected a playoff run, but they were expected to be in the play-in picture the same area where the Kings, Warriors, Lakers teams are. They knew we're going to be good, but did anyone predict them to be this good? No, and I think that extra factor is what puts Mike Daniel over the top. Not only getting the best out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but getting the most out of a rookie in Chet Holmgren, getting that extra step out of Jalen Williams. Even showing that Josh Giddey in a lineup where they need shooting, he's still able to get some great productivity from him. I think he's the ultimate like team builder type coach, and now that he's been with this team for years now and developed a culture, people are invested in, and now it's translating into wins. This is exactly how you want a rebuild to go. And Mark Daniel, as someone who has been there for years now, is finally seeing kind of the fruits of their labor, so to say.
Yeah, this is the Oklahoma City Thunder team that has improved across the board. You can point to a handful of different guys that you've now seen this year that you have to make real light of developing across the board. Jalen Williams has gotten better. Chet Holmgren, we've been able to see improve as the course of the season. Josh Giddey is having a crazy March. Cason Wallace already stepping in and being a contributor big time. Yeah, this is a team that I think is just improving across the board, and it's huge what he's been able to do with this young squad. Yeah, I'm not going to say he's the best coach in the NBA, but for this season, he has definitely put himself in a different echelon. And I think that the postseason is going to tell us a lot because this is going to be his first time coaching with real stakes under this tenure.
100%. I think after this year, after this playoff run, we'll definitely see if like Mark Daniel will be even in discussion of like top 5 coaches in the league and stuff. I'm excited to see what the Thunder team can do in the playoffs. This next award should be pretty quick in my opinion. Clutch Player of the Year award. There's only a few things you have to look at here, but we're looking at the guys. If you guys don't know what, and we're gonna talk about this a lot in this topic, clutch minutes. So it's basically final 5 minutes of the game with the score being 5 or less point margin, right? I think that's the rule for clutch time.
Pretty much.
Basically, that's and then we're gonna talk. We're basically choosing an award here for who's been the best clutch player in the league. Jay, who are your 3 nominees and your winner?
So, I mean, this is going to be a lot shorter of an explanation because it's just based off like clutch stats or whatever. But the 3 players that I end up having for this season are pretty much Shai, Steph, DeMar in that order. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 3, Steph Curry at 2, and then DeMar DeRozan at 1. Damian Lillard is in here as well, but he's just kind of had a shaky year when it comes to overall play this year. It's just that the stats do back him up as one of the better clutch time players in the league. But especially with the run that DeMar DeRozan and the Chicago Bulls have been on, which is kind of notable that's why his clutch stats are what they are. It's because it seems like they're always in close games. Those are the 3 I have.
Yeah. I mean, just quickly, 48 clutch games that the Bulls have been. Sorry, 38 clutch games have been in this year. That's more than half the years. That's like close to like half the year so far. Tough for the Bulls here. But my order basically, Damian Lillard, I have him at number 3. I have DeMar DeRozan at number 2 and Steph Curry at number 1. Okay. So I guess I'll just get mine out the way since I'm already here. Dame. The only reason I have him at number 3, he has like one of the most clutch points in the league. I just not a huge fan of percentages, 40% from the field, 30% from 3, but memorable moments all year with that Milwaukee Bucks team. Yes, they've been in a lot of close games, which let's be honest, they really shouldn't have been. But Damian Lillard has still, on more times than not, has been there to kind of like put them over the top, and they're still like again a top 3 team in the East. So Damian Lillard has been a big part of that, especially in clutch situations. DeMar DeRozan. A lot of clutch games. funnily enough, him and Kobe White are the two guys with the most clutch minutes in the league this year. But this has just been like a theme year in, year out. I mean, if this award was introduced in 2021, we already know that DeMar DeRozan would have won this award. But you just know that he's someone you can go to time and time again. He'll get you a good shot every single time. His percentages in the clutch are fantastic. He's even hit 50% of his threes, 7 for 14. You just know that you're going to give him a good, that whenever you put the ball in his hands late in games, he's going to give you a very good luck no matter the situation. The reason I go with Steph Curry is not only is he leading the league in clutch points, but he also has the percentages to back him up, almost 50% from the field. But also, and this is the one that kind of put it over the top for me, he has like double the amount of threes than anyone else in clutch minutes. 33s made, but also he's shooting them at a 46% rate. Just absolutely ridiculous. And you know the Warriors situation this year, a lot of underwhelming pieces, but you know who hasn't been underwhelming? Steph Curry, and he's been the one who's saving them a lot late in games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to add just because, like I said, I think this is one of the few awards where stats is just going to tell you who it is. Like Clutch Player of the Year is just going to be who seems to perform the best in the clutch while being in the clutch frequent enough for the stats to matter. And I could see why Steph Curry, especially from a shooting precision standpoint, stands out. The reason why I went with DeMar, A, Bulls bias, I was going to do it somewhere. But B, again, if you watch Chicago Bulls games, we just spend so much time playing in the clutch that it feels like this run that we've had over the last 2 months, where things have slowed down as of recent, but this run that the Bulls have had over the last 2 months, it's kind of been backpacked by their ability to close games. And that comes a lot from, like you mentioned beforehand, the combination of DeMar DeRozan and ironically Kobe White as well, who have kind of been the primary contributors to like helping make this play-in push, where it looks like now the Bulls are going to end up playing the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in tournament, which is something that like was looking pretty murky for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I think like either way, you can. I think it's either Curry or DeMar's award to win. You can go either way, but yeah, I think this one doesn't need to go much into it. I don't think there's going to carry much weight even much going forward. But shout out to these guys who have been like there for their team, especially late in games. Final two awards to get to. Before we get to the big one in the MVP, let's go on to Defensive Player of the Year. The guys who are the defensive anchors of their team. Again, gonna be a mixed bag of players, and depending on where you want to go with this could be a very interesting discussion. But Jay, who are your three nominees, and who is your ultimate winner?
So this one, I'm staying pat on who my number one is, but my three guys that I'm gonna go with is I'm gonna put, man, I think the person I'm leaving off is where I'm struggling. I'm gonna put Bam Adebayo at 3.
Okay.
I have to put Vic at 2. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of the opposite of what my argument for my number one guy is, but he's been a complete wreck on that side of the ball, like in ways that just don't make any sense. And my number one guy is Rudy Gobert, and it's been that way damn near the whole year.
Yeah, you know what? Very similar. But instead of Bam at number 3, I have Anthony Davis at number 3.
Yeah, that was the guy.
Okay. Yeah, I have Anthony Davis at number 3. I have Wemby at 2 as well. I have Wemby at number 2. Purely based on his ability alone. We know the Spurs aren't a great defensive team, but when he's on the court, teams act different. You've seen the block highlights, but people are now even noticing the freaking like highlights where people are running away from the rim because they're scared of this man. This is a type of impact he's having for the San Antonio Spurs. And then number 1, Rudy Gobert hasn't changed since like week 2, and it will not change now. I have Rudy Gobert as number 1. Anything else you want to add to these guys?
I mean, so if you go across the board, right, Bam Adebayo has been the versatility defensively. He's always been this way. I think Bam Adebayo is always going to be the argument. He's going to be the new Ben Simmons argument, right, of the effectiveness of how important is being a guy who can be a rim defender but does a lot of their dirty work, being able to be elite on the perimeter as a defensive player. Bam Adebayo, not necessarily known as the best like rim defender at the center position, but definitely a guy that, because he can compete in space, makes him a lot more versatile as a defender at the center position. Victor Wembanyama, some of this stuff doesn't even make any sense, but one of them being most notably that he has the second best defensive rating as an individual player in the NBA, only behind Rudy Gobert at 106.4. That's pretty insane, because when you look at the offensive production between Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, and Bam Adebayo, he also is the best offensively of that group. 21 points, 10.5 rebounds, obviously compares pretty well to Bam Adebayo's 19.7 and 10.6. So damn near comparable to an extent. And then Rudy Gobert 13.8 and 12.9 in terms of just like the overall, like the regular counting stats. Victor Wembanyama has 1.3 steals per and 3.5 blocks per game. Also pure insanity. I think the part that hurts him the most is, of our three candidates, he's the only person with a negative plus minus. He's minus 149. Bam Adebayo is a plus 43, and Rudy Gobert is a plus 405. Now that's partly skewed by the fact that Victor Wembanyama plays for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yes.
But Victor Wembanyama,
they're still bottom 10 in offense in general, and defense in general.
yeah.
So like, there's only so much Vic can do.
Yeah, but he is just a one-man wrecking crew that, like, when it comes to stocks in general, blocks and steals, the dude is just like, it's ridiculous. And then you look at the overall impact. Sometimes DPOY can just come down to turn the tape on and like put together the highlight reel, and you tell me who looks like one of the best defensive players in the league. And it's like, if Victor Wembanyama doesn't win it this year, it's because it just seems too soon, right? To an extent, in terms of just individual contribution. But that means that if this team even slightly improves defensively next year, he's going to have a real case to be that guy, considering that he is an individual offense record with the way he plays on the defensive side of the ball. And then Rudy Gobert, I've said it beforehand, he is the best shot block. He's one of the best shot blockers in the NBA this year at 2.1 blocks per game. That's only behind what I believe Anthony Davis, Victor Wembanyama, and like Chet Holmgren are probably like the only other people that like are ahead of him in terms of blocks per game that also play significant minutes. So one of the best shot blockers in the game, leading the best defense in the NBA on a team that isn't necessarily like littered with defensive talent, by the way. And it's been like that the entire season. Rudy Gobert, to me, he's the defense. And like I said, best defensive rating in the league at 104.4, ahead of Vic, ahead of Bam Adebayo, ahead of Anthony Davis, that whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll go down my list as well. Anthony Davis, kind of Bam Adebayo West in the sense where, again, definitely, he has like the versatility in terms of being able to switch onto guys. And what's important for AD this year is that he's been healthy. Sure, the Lakers haven't been like a top 10 defense or anything, but that's because of the amount of lineup changes, injuries, this and that. But what's been consistent is Anthony Davis. And when he's on the court, this team has a whole different energy to them, especially on the defensive end, knowing that you have Anthony Davis as your spine behind you, being that defensive anchor. And again, racking up the stocks as well. Shout out to him. And he's just been like showing like how, like, especially like, I mean, I don't want to jump all the way back to this, but the in-season tournament, you've seen like all the defensive highlights. He's just that guy who, when like late in games, people are gonna get you like, some clutch offensive buckets, like Anthony Davis, and I think to a certain extent Draymond Green will just get you to like the necessary defensive, the defensive stuff that you need, especially at the end of games. I think Anthony Davis does that very well. Wemby, I mean, the highlights speak for themselves. Like, we're having a highlight reel of people running away from the basket now from Victor Wembanyama. Easiest case, last night's game versus the Denver Nuggets. Christian Brown had a wide open layup in quotations, ran away from the net because Wemby was in the vicinity. Passes out to Michael Porter Jr. He's the one who hits the dagger three. These easy layups that people used to think they had, not the case when there's Victor. And if you have that sort of impact on the game already, you're one of the best defensive players in the league. And then Rudy Gobert. We've said this for years. You put him in any system, he has a system all to himself. And if you can play that system correctly, as the Utah Jazz have done for years, as the Timberwolves have finally figured out this year, where you can be aggressive on the perimeter, because even if you do make these little mistakes, Rudy Gobert is going to be there to make up for them. If you continue to play that system, you're going to be a top 5 defense, and Rudy Gobert is a top 5 defense all unto himself. That doesn't get enough love. People are going to say, oh, Wemby should still win it. Gobert is like not just one of the best defensive players in the league. He is the system. He is the system over there in Minnesota, and that's why he deserves love too. I have him as my defensive player of the year winner.
Simple. That the last statement is the most important statement. Rudy Gobert is the defensive system for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have the best defense in the NBA. Case in point.
Case in point. Jay, we've reached the end here. We've reached the big award, the granddaddy of them all, the MVP award. This award I feel there's like a clear top 4. One person you're gonna leave out is gonna be tough, but it's gonna be interesting if especially like over like the last couple of weeks and months, if there's gonna be a change in the winner. But Jay, I'll throw it over to you. Who are your 3 nominees and your eventual winner for MVP?
So the 3 nominees that I have are Luka Doncic at 3, Nikola Jokic at 2, and I'm still putting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 1. I know that this is not necessarily a popular opinion at this point, especially with the fact that some people believe that Luka Doncic has made this race a lot more complicated with the way that he's been playing over the last month and a half. And I do agree that he definitely makes it difficult with the way that he's been playing. But when you just talk about overall body of work, and part of it is me including the old criteria of MVP, because to an extent that is part of how voting tends to turn sometimes, is the old best player on the best team argument. Well, all 3 of these players are in the Western Conference. All 3 of them. Yes. All three of these MVP candidates are in the Western Conference. Whose team is number 1 right now?
It's SGA. By the way, number 4 is probably going to be Giannis, but yeah, the top 3 is it's the top 2 technically are SGA and Jokic, just because they're so damn close in the standings. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand standings wise, that's where things get tricky, but that's why Luka for me is 3rd, is because there's a complete separation between where the Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder are and where the Dallas Mavericks are. It's not super significant, but it is significant to me when I think about the fact that over the course of time, best player on the best team has always factored in to how these votes land. And then I think there's a narrative aspect of it. I think that we're running into an area, and I don't like doing like the whole like media fatigue thing and stuff like that. But like, I think we have an understanding that Nikola Jokic is the best player in basketball. I think we just understand that, right? So now we have to bring it down to just individual seasons. I don't know if this is necessarily Nikola Jokic's best individual season out of all the MVP campaigns he's put together. Personally, I mean, statistically, I would have to go back and look into that. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that, and he's done a little bit better. Maybe I'll do a little bit of that as I'm talking. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we said it earlier when we were talking about Mark Daigneault. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is spearheading a team that came into this year where people were saying that them making the playoffs was the bar this year, of them taking the leap to being a playoff team. That was the leap, not a top 2, top 3 team in the Western Conference. He is doing it as arguably the best 2-way guard in the league. The best 2-way guard in the league in terms of when I say best, it's because of the fact that offensively, he gives you so much from a usage perspective. But then defensively, he's one of the top players on the perimeter in terms of steals and steals percentage. The Oklahoma City Thunder are one of the best teams in terms of contest percentage, despite the fact that they play relatively small. I get Chet Holmgren is like 7'1", but they are a relatively smaller lineup as a collective, right? But their guards have for the guard position all have high contest rates. That starts with a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander giving that kind of effort on the defensive end. He's not a guy you're going to put down on your best opposing offensive player, but that's because SGA has such a significant offensive load. But is he a confident defender at the point guard position? Yes. He is, like I said, he is argued. When you go down the list of best players at the guard position, right? The Steph Currys, the Devin Bookers, the Donovan Mitchells, right? When you go down that list, you can make a legitimate argument that it's probably like between him and Devin Booker of being the best high volume scoring guard defensively. It's between those two guys. So to me, SGA is just doing it in a completely different way. We know that Jokic is the best player in the NBA. Got it. You're talking about me. This is the podcast for it. Me and TV have been pushing this on our podcast, on other platforms, that this guy just might just be the best player in the NBA for the last 3 to 4 years and might have even deserved to win the MVP over Joel Embiid last year. Not that part. But what SGA is doing this year is special, and that goes beyond the 40 plus games with 30 plus points and all that stuff where you're getting put in echelons with Michael Jordan and stuff like that. Like SGA is just doing it a completely different way.
Yeah. Oh, this was tough. This was very, very tough. People want to crown Jokic right away. I get it, but this was a tough decision. I have SGA at 3. I love the man. But we can't ignore Luka Doncic.
Oh my God.
We can't ignore him. He's number
March
2.
Madness is getting to him.
He's at number 2 though, and I have Nikola Jokic winning his 3rd MVP. Should have been 4th straight. Should have been his 4th straight. But yeah, I have Jokic winning. I have Luka number 2, SGA at number 3. SGA, he has been fantastic this entire season. Top guy for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Have been doing. I just think, like, especially with Luka Doncic, that we are unfairly putting him on. Like, we're unfairly looking at his season and not giving him enough credit still. I don't know if this has to do because of how. I don't know if it's a career thing with Luka, where in the 2nd season of his NBA career, he was already like 1st team All NBA or something, where he kind of set the bar too high for himself. But people are not giving it. People are not giving it too much. Not giving it too much credit with how great he's been. I mean, Shai has been great. Shai has been absolutely fantastic, going 36-7 on one of the top teams in the West. But when you look at Luka, and now that the Mavericks are final, and I don't want to say that this stretch really did for him, because let's be honest, he's been putting up better numbers earlier on in the season. The Mavericks are finally putting it together. And the record issue that we've had earlier in the year, the Mavericks might just creep into the top 5 of the West. And when you look at previous MVP seasons of Nikola Jokic, of Russell Westbrook, where they were a 6th or 5th seed in their conference, and they were still, and their stats were like, oh, their stats are too good to not put them in discussion. I feel like Luka is unfairly not given that same sort of push. And it's not
agree.
I feel like that sort of push that Luka deserves like more respect in that regard. He is averaging 34, 9 and 9. Basically 10 assists per game. And he's doing it on some of like the craziest efficiency of his career, which is like, for someone who was like averaging 34 points a game, you would expect it to be like a bit of a lower percentage. No. This guy's like still like almost 50% from the field and everything. He's just been absolutely incredible. The Mavs are no pushover whatsoever. And as much as SGA had a great season, I just think that Luka's season has been better. And I think that the Mavericks are in a good enough position where I can comfortably take him over SGA. Nikola Jokic, I don't want to say that this is like, how I want to say this. Like, we owe you one because, let's be honest, last year should have been you. But when you take into the fact that the Denver Nuggets have had, maybe many injuries here and there, but at the end of the day, their main guy, Nikola Jokic, has been there with, again, the biggest advanced start darling in the NBA, highest PER in the entire league, still giving you the highlights, still averaging nearly a triple double, only 9 assists per game on some crazy good efficiency, one of the highest shooting percentages as well, and leading Nuggets to the number one seed when you have like a season that he's had, very similar to when he had like the 6 seed MVP. Now you pair that with the number one seed in the West. I think those two combined, you got to give him the MVP again, because it's not only like he's giving you the stats, but he's also doing it on the best team in the West.
Mm. I can't really hate on it, bro. Like at the end of the day, like I said, it's one of those things where like maybe it's biased to an extent to say, like, we get it, you're the best player in the NBA. There we go, and just leave it at that. That does sound like media bias to an extent, so I'm willing to take that hit. With Luka Doncic, I'm not gonna say that his entire body of work isn't what it is. I mean, shoot, don't get me wrong. If you look at it statistically, actually the month of March isn't even like his best month of the year. It might actually be like the lowest overall in terms of his productivity this year, which makes the fact that that he's been gaining steam over the last month that much more intriguing. I also do think
it's because the Mavs are finally like in a position where they're not a play-in team anymore. So probably people are like, you know what? Maybe we can start putting Luka in these conversations now, even though that wasn't entirely his fault. But that's just kind of like the discourse around it. But now that he's like finally a 5th seed, the Mavericks are finally putting things together. That's what's like helping his narrative more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, clearly there's a threshold of you can only be but so low, right? Yeah. There's clearly a threshold of where you can be in the standings to be nominated for MVP. And Dallas has slowly but surely asserted themselves into that conversation. And I get I think something that unfortunately might end up hurting SGA is missing these last couple of games, because the narrative building around Luka Doncic is only growing. And the fact that SGA is missing these games due to injury, of course, but the fact that it's one of those out of sight, out of mind things. Like, for example, one of the most interesting things of the summer is like where Ja Morant is going to rank on people's point guard rankings in the summer, or where he ranks as an overall player in the NBA over the summer, as a guy who we only saw for a couple of games after being suspended for 25 games and then getting injured and missing the entirety of the season, right? That out of sight, out of mind syndrome thing, especially this late in the year while everybody is making playoff pushes. Yeah, this is like when the ballots start to really roll in like heavy, right? I'm not going to judge the voters by saying this is when they start actually watching basketball, right? But this is when a lot of, despite the fact that this is described as the dog days of the NBA, these last 2 weeks in terms of positioning, especially in the Western Conference specifically, every game matters. Like, there's a lot of games that matter on a night-to-night basis, and every game that you miss, it hurts your overall chances. Ironically enough, the Oklahoma City Thunder are just barely beating the Boston Celtics right now without SGA and without Jalen Williams as we're recording this podcast. Hilariously enough, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a big game every single night because of where the standings are and the importance of seeding and getting prepared for postseason basketball. And every second that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is off camera and Luka Doncic is on camera, it's going to skew the narrative to an extent. So I could see your order actually being the way it shakes out. I am most intrigued to see how they treat Jokic. That's out of all of this, he is actually the most important player in terms of who favors the kind of season he's put together, and how much weight does potentially getting it wrong, depending on who you ask, last year factor into how this year is treated. I'm interested to see how that all plays out.
My only other final argument for Nikola Jokic is this. People, and I believe I'm not sure if it was his first MVP or second MVP, there was an argument, it was the year when Jamal Murray was out, where people were saying, watch these numbers drop when Jamal Murray comes back into the lineup, because Jamal Murray is going to eat into those numbers, eat into those minutes, and Nikola Jokic should not, like his MVP season, these numbers should not skew like what Nikola Jokic is as an actual player. Well, Jamal Murray has played most of this season. Nikola Jokic is having his best season, if arguably his best season of his career, and he's in the number one seed. I think like all the factors together, it's hard to like make an argument against Jokic. But again, if you go with SGA, if you go with Luka Doncic, I can't even hate any of those other arguments because this MVP race, especially these last couple of years, has just been ridiculous. Like the amount of the numbers, the records that these guys are having. We're in the best state the NBA has ever been, and you gotta love it as basketball fans. You can see this every single night.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The MVP race is really interesting, and it's one of those things where actually it could have been even scarier because Joel Embiid just came back to Philly, and he came back like he never missed a beat, which was scary to see considering the fact that the postseason is right around the corner. If this guy can go into the postseason healthy, coming off this knee injury, Philly might be somebody to reckon with. So it's crazy to think that this MVP race is as stacked as it is. We had to leave Giannis Antetokounmpo off, who might be the best two-way player of the entire MVP grouping.
Yeah.
And then there was a state where Joel Embiid, once upon a time, was actually above all of these guys.
He was the clear number one.
Yeah. So that's crazy that's the way this year turned out, where things could have actually been even more interesting because what if Joel Embiid kept up the pace that he was on before he got injured? Now, where does everybody rank? Who do you bump off? You know what I mean? Now we're starting to slow. That's where you're going to start having people like slide into like Elgin Baylor territory of like being third and fourth on the MVP ballot in situations where they're having insane years, but like there's just guys who just doing too much to overlook.
Exactly. It's hard to be special when everyone else in the league is just as special, man. It's really hard, and you gotta love the NBA for it. But especially in the case like Luka Doncic, where these numbers maybe a few years ago, I mean, they're still absolutely ridiculous. Let's be honest. It's still probably like some of the craziest numbers we've ever seen out of anyone. But the fact you still have Jokic in the league and SGA putting up these type of numbers, it's hard to be special when there's so many other special talent around you. So, yeah, let us know down below for any of these awards. Let us know what you guys think. Who should win them? If we are missing any nominees, all that good stuff, let us know down below. Now we're going to move on to the next topic, which is the NBA draft. And this one is kind of a repeat of last year, but we're going to put a little bit of a twist on it. So last year we did a draft around picking a single player from each award. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, yada, yada, yada. But what we're going to do this year is we're going to go through almost all of the awards. Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year. We got a Most Improved. And we got, I think I'm missing like one more. Rookie of the Year. But we can't choose any of them who have also won an MVP. So we're discounting all MVPs here. All MVPs are off the table. So if you pick someone in the Rookie of the Year with one and they've won an MVP, they're off the table. But to make up that fifth spot, we're gonna pick a coach who, again, can't be MVP, but a coach who, if you want to go former player, and we're obviously gonna go former player, but you're gonna have to add that guy to your team on the basketball court. Last year we had him as the actual coach. This year we're gonna need him on the basketball court because we don't allow MVPs here. Jay, how you feel about this draft?
This one's super interesting. Obviously, picking a former player. I mean, I don't think there are any MVP coaches, by the way, so that kind of helps out.
Larry Bird.
Oh, of course, duh, because we're doing all-time coaches too. So yeah, of course you can't. Okay, so Larry Bird is one, of course, as well. But yeah, we always got to put unique spins on these, bro. So obviously we're always gonna find a way. You know what I mean?
100%. And you know how these drafts work. Jay gets the first pick, I get the next two, and we're gonna run through things serpentine style. So Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. The first overall pick. What award are you gonna be going with? And which award are you gonna be going with to take off the board first?
So I'm gonna go DPOY.
Okay.
And let me get 2010, 2011 Dwight Howard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that choice. I mean, that was like what? I think that was the year he was like runner up for MVP.
Yeah, I tried to pick his best season in terms of where he was close enough to MVP value, but at the same time, you know, the defensive player of the year category counts for itself. And also just statistically across the board, I mean, he was a menace. I think actually this was also his second defensive player of the year.
Yes, it was.
At that point, or actually no, 2010, 2011 was his third. that he won. So this was his third DPOY that he had won. It was easily his best season. I believe that was the year that he led them to led the Orlando Magic to the finals as well.
Mm-hmm.
This was just an overall dominating force of a player, still top 75 by the way, kind of guy, and like I said, one of the better players off the board. So yeah,
Like that pick. Like that pick. So Dwight Howard is off the board. And remember, we're taking that version of the player. So if we go for Rookie of the Year, we're getting the rookie version of that player too, just to keep in mind.
yeah.
All right. So you took the defensive player of the year off the board. So maybe I might head over to the most improved section then to kind of take the best guy off of the year. Because with my first pick, I'm going to be going with 2000, 2001 Tracy McGrady to start off my I'm going to take that year for Tracy
Interesting.
McGrady. So I'm taking most improved off the board, and then do I go defense? I think I'm going to end up going. Maybe do I go six man of the year potentially? Um, just you know what? Just so I can take potentially the best guy off the board here, I'm gonna go with six man of the year, 1984-85 Kevin McHale.
Dang.
I think
Okay.
underrated power forward back then, but I'm gonna have him over there running my forward. So I'm gonna take Trace McGrady and Kevin McHale.
That's a good one. I'm gonna be honest right now. I'm probably gonna keep a lot of my players like 2000s just because like I don't know. But let's get peak of his. I don't want to say peak of his powers, but the start of what would become the ascension of Paul George. Let me get most improved player version of Paul George
Like
in
that,
2012,
like that,
2013.
like that. That's a good next pick. Who you got for your third pick?
A good one. And then who are some of the best six man of the years that I can think of that I just really like?
Six man of the year is definitely the hardest one.
Hmm?
Six man of the year is definitely the hardest one.
Yeah, six man of the year is easily the hardest one because the crazy part about it is like guys like Manu Ginobili didn't win it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's the crazy part. Like
Oh,
guys like that did not win
he won.
six man of the year.
Yeah.
What?
Manu?
Huh?
Didn't he win six man? Yeah, he
He
won.
won one. He won one. But he's a guy who finished top five like multiple
Yeah,
times. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So
yeah,
like that's what I mean when I say like the variety is like kind of crazy
yeah.
because there's a lot of guys to choose from. Is what I guess what more so what I mean.
Got you. Yeah.
Um, dang, who are we gonna go with? Who are we gonna go with? Matter of fact, let because of the fact that it's so difficult, let's go with 07, 08 Manu Ginobili.
Like that pick. Absolutely like that pick. So Manu Ginobili's off the board. Up next for myself. So I'm making things a little bit interesting here. I know there's not a lot of great big men for six men, so I want to get that like out of the way. So I have left the coach, defensive player of the year, and I think I'm missing rookie of the year as well. So I'm gonna take my defensive player of the year first, and I'm gonna go with not his first defensive player of the year, his second one, Kawhi Leonard, 2015, 2016.
Dang, that's a good one. That's a really good one too.
Yeah. Firstly, he was runner up for MVP that year. So
Yeah.
he was runner up that year, first team All NBA. This is when we knew, oh, Kawhi Leonard, yeah, he is one of the best players in basketball. He's up there. Again, hard for a wing to do it, and this man did it twice. So shout out to Kawhi. And then the next one, this one is gonna be. I need to look at the rookie of the years is the one that's gonna trip me up a little bit. So I am I missing the rookie of the year here? I think I have to. I think I closed the rookie of the year page. That's what's throwing me off. I'm gonna go with. Let's see. I need a center. I need a point guard. I'm gonna. You know what? F it. Let's go. A lot of these guys were MVPs, which is the tough part. A lot of
Yeah, I
these
was gonna say.
do. You know what? I'm gonna go a bit more modern. some people might say, why not choose Patrick Ewing? I'm gonna go with Karl Anthony Towns as my center. I'm gonna go with Karl Anthony Towns.
TV done trucked up.
Did I mess up?
TV done trucked up. It's okay. You're gonna see in a second why.
There's some guys I know I'm missing out on. I know I'm missing out on Luka as well. I'm missing out on. I know I'm missing out. I'm only doing that because for my coach, I hope that you don't choose this guy, but I need to leave a space off for my coach, so I'm gonna go with him next. But I'm gonna go. Am I gonna lock this in? Oh gosh, and am I lock this in? This is a tough one. You know what, Evan? I'm gonna move Kevin McHale to the center position and put Kevin Durant. Oh no, Kevin Durant won MVP. Oh my gosh, I'm stupid. I'm flustered. No, I'm flustered now. I'm like, I don't want to make.
You're lucky Karl Anthony Towns isn't locked in because you'd be.
I know. You know what? I'm taking. Yeah, I'm taking Patrick Ewing instead. I'd rather just have a more study guide center. I'm gonna go Patrick Ewing.
Fair. DV, like I said, man, thank you for your assistance. Let me get 2017, 2018 Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
As my guy who, again, like I said beforehand, MVP caliber candidate, just has never won it. So that plays into my favor. And then TV, if you thought by any chance that you somehow were going to get the best non-MVP player coach, you got me messed up because, yeah, I am taking Jason Kidd. Sorry, bud. If we got to turn him into a player, I mean, shout out to you. You can still take newly announced Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups if you'd like. But I'm gonna take Jason Kidd. Yeah.
Jason Kidd won Coach of the Year?
Huh?
Did he win Coach of the Year?
He has to be Coach of the Year? I thought we just had to take a coach.
No, Coach of the Year.
Wait, to be a Coach of the Year that played?
Yeah.
What? Okay, wait a minute.
Okay, I was surprised. I'm like, if Jason Kidd won Coach of the Year, then I definitely missed out someone.
No, you're fine. I just thought that because we had to do player coaches.
No. There's still quite a bit of guys here who played in the league, especially if we're going all time.
Okay, let me scan real quick. Bow. I'm still gonna take coach. I just need to figure out which one it is. I'm glad you said that though. Coach of the Year one is the one that we're getting the player version of.
Yeah.
Ew, though. Everybody outside of Larry Bird's kind of gross.
Yeah. There's one guy I need here. I'm hoping that you're gonna let me have.
Well, if the answer is Steve Kerr, I can't let you. I'm sorry.
You know what?
If it's somebody else, then it's cool. But I'm just gonna take Steve because that's fine.
Hey man, that's a good
Steve
choice.
Is not starting on this team.
Well, he has to be because we have 5 guys on the court. So I'm just gonna go with my guy. He's the only one I recognize here who was on the NBA 75 list. And shout out to the old heads. Well, again, we talked about a few weeks ago. We're not done with the 90s. Well, it turns out we're not done with the 60s either because I'm gonna go with Lenny Wilkins.
Get the hell out of here. He said, I'm not done with the 60s. No, sir. I'm cool. I'm going to stick with Steve.
Hey, man, the year he won MVP, like the year, like his best year, he was a runner-up at MVP. 20 points and 8 assists per game on the St. Louis Hawks. Shout out to Lenny Wilkins, man. Shout out to Lenny.
Shout out to Lenny, man. Shout out to Lenny.
All right, man. End of the draft. We have our starting fives. Who do you have in your NBA awards NBA draft?
So Steve Kerr does have to start on this team.
Yeah.
Even though normally this would not play to his favor. But as my coach of the year, I'm gonna have Steve Kerr start at point guard. As my sixth man of the year, I'm gonna have the 07-08 Manu Ginobili. At my 3, let's have Rookie of the Year 2017-2018 Luka Doncic. At my 4, let's have Most Improved Player 2012, 2013 Paul George, which is hilarious because he used to play two guard when he was most improved player. So now he's at my 4. And then at my 5, let me get DPOY, third DPOY winner, 2010, 2011 Dwight Howard.
All right, that's a good team. Can't hate it. Can't hate it. For myself, though, at point guard, we have the freaking point guard battle of dreams with the coach of the year. Can't go the coach of the year, guys.
Yuck.
We got Lenny Wilkins on my side. At my other guard, gotta go with MIP Tracy McGrady. The minute he left Toronto, he became freaking one of the best 2 guards in the league. Starting at my 3, we got DPOY, second DPOY, Kawhi Leonard. At my 4, we got 6 man of the year, Kevin McHale. Now my center position, got rookie of the year, Patrick Ewing. How you feeling about your team?
Patrick Ewing is food. I'm sorry. Dwight Howard is going to have his way, and the Luka Doncic, Dwight Howard pick and roll might be the most devastating thing that basketball's ever seen in human history. I'm sorry.
Well, wait until Kawhi has to guard Luka.
I think you should be more worried about the Lenny Wilkins switch.
What do you mean? What do you? Yo, we're not disrespectful around here. We respect our elders, and my man here is disrespecting a legend, Lenny Wilkins. And yo, NBA 75 player, man. Yo, you gotta chill. On that. But yeah, let us know down below.
Oh,
what other drafts do you want to see, and also which team is better between the two that were drafted. We have now reached the final segment of the show. It is time for the NBA quiz. And again, I'm not going to tell you what the theme is, but I will tell you that we're bringing back a quiz where I have 3 players here, and you're going to have to guess them by the teams that I tell you. So remember, I have, and at the end you're going to see what the theme is. You're going to try to guess what the theme is. But I'm going to tell you, like I mentioned, like we've done in the past. The first team I'm going to give is probably one of their least notable ones, and then as we go down the list, the last one I'm going to give you is going to be their most notable. Sound good? All right. The first guy on the list, his least. I'm going to start it off with the Houston Rockets.
Are we doing current players, or is this like everything? Oh my God! Come on, TV. That's like
fine.
Anybody that way.
All these guys are post 2000.
Okay, cool. That's like at least something. I'm like, Jesus, I'm gonna just be guessing ancient history. Like,
no. These guys are post 2000.
Is least notable as Houston Rockets?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do like John Wall.
Not John Wall.
Okay.
All right, next team. The Brooklyn Nets.
Jeez. Wow. The first player that comes to mind is definitely not the right player because least notable is Rockets, and James Harden's played for both of these teams. That's hilarious. Golly. Who am I thinking of?
Yeah, so we got the Houston Rockets first, and then I got the Brooklyn Nets.
I got somebody really nasty, but I don't know if it works.
What do you got?
Is it Goran?
Not Goran. You know what? I don't mind that guess. It's not Goran, but I don't mind that guess.
Okay, and I say it's nasty because of the Nets part, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
It is nasty. Next one, though. The Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics.
Damn, dude. Huh. Is this Uncle Jeff?
It's not Uncle Jeff.
Oh my gosh.
He played for all three of these teams. Jeez. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's not Uncle Jeff. Second to last team, the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta Hawks.
Who has played for the Atlanta Hawks that I think would even be on this team? This is not. Ew. Wait, nah. Wait, we're doing awards. I'm trying to think if that has anything to do with this, but you said you're not telling me the theme, so it might not have anything to do with the awards.
It has something to do with awards, but I'm gonna give you like the overall theme like afterwards, like after you guys like all these things.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I'm thinking like the next person I'm even thinking of is like Damari Carroll.
It's not Damari Carroll, but the final team I'm gonna give you, and his most notable team, the Dallas Mavericks.
Whoa. Okay. His most notable team.
So the 5 teams I've given you: the Houston Rockets,
Yeah.
the Nets, the Boston Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, Dallas Mavericks. A bit of a tough one. It's a bit of a tough one, but he's definitely like a prominent player from like was a prominent player that we watched.
Yeah, he's a prominent player that we watched.
Like he's definitely like growing up we've definitely like he was definitely like someone that like we knew of, and he was like a prominent player. And I honestly, arguably, okay, so he won a championship, and he was like arguably like a top three most important player on that team.
Oh wow. Okay. Respect to him.
Remember, his most important team is the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, that's probably the part that's tripping me out is him having Houston and Dallas on the same list.
He's played 8. I'll tell you, he played 8 years in Dallas.
Oh, so this is a guy who's been around too.
He retired in 2018.
Oh my God.
I thought you got it for a second there.
I think I do, but I'm not sure about Atlanta. That's the part I'm struggling with.
You want to say it?
Okay. Can I give you two guesses? I feel like one is
Sure.
automatically wrong, but can I give you two guesses?
Sure.
As my last guess or whatever. Okay, the first player that I thought of, and I feel like he's the one that's wrong because I feel like it's a team that I didn't get somewhere in there, is like Avery Johnson.
Not Avery Johnson.
Okay, that's the one I thought. And then the other one I have is just because you said 8 years, it's like a long time. So I'm trying to think of players that was there. You didn't say Phoenix, so that took off somebody that I thought. You didn't say Spurs, so that takes off somebody that I thought. The only other person I could think of is like Jason Terry.
Jason Terry.
Oh,
yes, sir.
Jesus Christ.
Jason Terry started off his career 5 years at the Atlanta Hawks. That's why he was the second.
That's where the Atlanta years were. Okay, that's what okay, cool. That's the part that I wasn't sure about. The first five.
And then he spent 8 years with Dallas. The only reason I put the Boston Celtics start is because if you know Jason Terry, you know that he got nuts in his face from LeBron James.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Unfortunately, that was a team where he played with like Vaughn Wafer and guys like that were like on the Boston Celtics at the time. I remember that team a little bit.
Yes. When Avery Bradley was one of their best players.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, Jason Terry, first guy here. Next up.
I'll take it.
Okay, next player you have on the list. The first team I'm going to give you is the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, damn it. Okay. Now I am going to do it. This is like Boris Diaw?
Not Boris Diaw.
Oh, that would have been so clutch to get that first try.
Not Boris Diaw. Next team, though, I'm going to give you a lot of memorable stuff. I'm going to give you the I'm just trying to figure out what teams like that will make it like at least like give you a good chance of getting it. I'm gonna give you the Golden State Warriors.
Hmm. This theme is gonna be so stupid if I feel like if this answer is right. Is it Jason Richardson?
Not Jason Richardson.
Oh, okay. So for some reason I thought that maybe the theme was gonna be the Jason thing, and I was like,
No.
that's nasty work, TV. That's nasty work because the third one will be like super easy.
No. The next one. I'm gonna give you the Chicago Bulls.
Okay, TV. Now you're playing with my intelligence. Now you're playing with my intelligence because the minute you give me anybody that has the Bulls on the list, I have to get the answer right. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna just pray that it's correct. Is the answer Jamal Crawford?
It is Jamal
Come on,
Crawford.
stop playing with me, dude. We can't do this. The minute you put a Chicago Bull on the list, I don't need to look anywhere. I don't need any inspiration. I don't even need to look down the standings. The minute we get a Chicago Bull, come on, man. I know the
Hey,
answer
look,
already.
start off his career there for his first 4 seasons with the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, man.
I was gonna give you the Knicks next, for on the list for Jamal Crawford, and then of course I was gonna give you the Clippers after.
Believe it or not, I think the Knicks part would have thrown me off, which is crazy because he was actually really good.
He was really good. That was like
Yeah,
that was at the time of like Nate Robinson was a solid player for them.
yeah,
David Lee was that guy during that era.
yeah. With David Lee was like, I think like second, or he might have won. He might have won like a most improved player, no, or like second in most improved, something like
I
that.
think it was second or something.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, he was.
He was that guy for
Oh, yeah,
like
he was doing something.
young Gallinari in that team too. It was a solid team.
I do remember this squad. This is like what was that pre or is that pre
Pre
or with Raymond Felton?
Raymond Felton.
So pre Raymond Felton.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's because of
Mellow
the
trade. Pre Mellow trade. Yeah.
pre Mello trade, of course.
Yeah. Jamal Crawford. I probably should put the Bulls like second last. Not gonna lie, but you know
Oh,
what?
just because of
Shout
the
out to you.
yeah.
Because of you. Just because it was you. If it was anyone else, I would do probably Bulls, then Knicks, then Clippers. But knowing you, I probably should put second last. But shout out to you. That was a good one.
Man.
All right, next one. Final player. First team I'm gonna give you for this guy, the Los Angeles Lakers.
Let me check something about Jason Terry real quick, by the way, because I want to see something. Because I'm it's bad, but I think I'm super focused on what this theme is because I almost want to see. Maybe nah, maybe not. Maybe it is though. What team? What team is it? What team is it?
Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay. Damn. I feel like I'm so focused on this theme, bro. It's so funny.
No, I know.
So-
I can see in your face the wheels are churning in your head.
I'm like I'm so focused on this because I want to know what the theme is like so bad, and I'm sitting here like, um, Lakers, Lakers players. Hmm. Oh my gosh. Oh, this theme is corrupting me. You know what? I'm gonna do the theme anyway because if the theme is right, then I'm goaded because I get two answers right at the same time. Is this Lou Williams?
It's not Lou Williams. It's not Lou Williams. Not Lou Williams. All right, next team, the New Orleans Hornets.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh man, wait a minute.
New Orleans Hornets.
Jamal Crawford and Jason Terry. Who the heck is this? Is this Rondo?
It is not Rajon Rondo. Next team I'm going to give you, though, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
What? Oh my God, this is unfair. Cleveland. Wait, what are the teams?
Lakers, New Orleans Hornets, Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, it's the Hornets. Oh. Notable information there.
Good information to know. Good information to know.
Yeah, it is, because that changes things a little bit. Because now I know that it's. Hmm. See, the only problem about that is though, like, how many players do I remember that were like, you know what I mean? Like, how many players do I remember that were on Cleveland that then also mix in with that? That's the problem.
Yeah, it's a tough.
That's
It's
the real problem. How many players that I know that played on Cleveland while being a part of that? Also, that does date things a little bit,
mhm.
but because you said the Hornets. What are the three teams again? Name it one more time.
Lakers, Hornets, Cavaliers, New Orleans Hornets, mind you.
Dog. They're the Hornets, dude. They're the Hornets. You got to think about it like the Hornets. They're not the Charlotte Hornets. They're not the New Orleans Pelicans. They are the New Orleans Hornets. The theme still fits, though, if I'm right. Is it J.R. Smith?
It is J.R. Smith.
Oh, let's. Come
Yeah.
on, man. Like, stop. Wait a minute. I only know that because the Hornets was like his rookie year or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't it before they moved after Katrina?
No. This was like he was like there from 04 to 06.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So three, you got it, J.R. Smith. I already know
Oh,
you know the category because you guessed the who will too.
come on, bro. Yes, Sirski.
What's the category, Jay?
It's 6 man of the year, bro. I was trying to find a theme so bad, dude. That's why I was jacking me up because I'm like, I want to get the player, but I want to guess the theme though. Like that's the
Yeah.
part that was really getting to me.
Once I heard you say he still fits, I already knew this.
No, because bro, I was so pressed. Like my thing was when I kept going down the list, because I couldn't. Okay, so of course the first theme I thought it was like, wait, is this Jason's? Because that's just nasty.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm like maybe. Okay, I'm like maybe. Then so of course, okay, like you said, the minute you give me Chicago Bull, I gotta get it right. Otherwise, like something's wrong. So that was like one of those. And I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, so the only person I think I would have been a little questionable of is if you did it in a different order. I think I would have gotten it wrong if Jason Terry was last.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
Jason Terry was last, I don't think I would have realized that it was 6 man of the year. Only because I think I know he won one.
He won with Dallas. Yeah, he won with
Dallas, right? That was that year where like he could not miss from three to save his life. Um, but if he were last, I think I wouldn't have known necessarily. Well, then again, Jamal Crawford, then J.R. Smith. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I guess
That's
it does kind of depend. Starting with Jason Terry might have actually been pretty good in terms of like
the order and stuff like
figuring
that.
out what the order was. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. Jason Terry was definitely like a low key wild card.
Yeah. So yeah, I was gonna go again. I gave you the Hornets, then I was gonna give you the Denver Nuggets, which you probably would have gotten it even like that
True.
would be even more clear.
Yeah. By the time we got to the Nuggets, it would have. If you had said Nuggets, Knicks, and I would have really got to the Knicks, first of all, I would have been disappointed in myself. But second of all, Nuggets, Knicks is like I would have just been like, who was in the Melo trade? And I would have just like would have just tried to figure it out from there.
Yeah. But
So,
shout
yeah.
out to the Henny God, man. We end the episode with the Henny God. Great
Yeah.
quiz, Jay. You you had like multiple things going on in your head. You had to figure out the play, but also figure out the theme. You put everything together, and you finally got to go. Great job on that one. Let us know down below what other quizzes you want to see on the channel as well. This was one of the better ones. I like the mini theme in the background. So this was really great. But yeah, another amazing episode. Thank you guys for watching. The award show was great. Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. What do you tell these people before we sign out?
Man, I hope you guys are playing these quizzes at home right along with me because I swear to you, these are getting more and more enjoyable by the week. And The themed aspect of this one was a new twist because we've done this version of the quiz before, but the theme aspect of it is probably it ended up actually being the more fun part of this quiz than actually guessing the players almost. So that's another thing that just goes to show you that we continue to evolve every single week when we continue to put these podcasts out. And we told you guys before, and when postseason starts, we're talking about uploading more. The content on social media is going to look a little different in terms of not just the frequency, but the kind of stuff that we're going to be doing. We understand that the Daily Picks Challenge is getting a little stale, but it's also almost over. So don't get me wrong. We understand that we got to come back with some new heat as the postseason starts. So we got that locked in as well. Somebody's gotta do a tough forfeit at the end of this Daily Picks Challenge, by the way. So please root for me, guys, because I'm struggling at the moment, down by 5 for the entirety of the game. So man, what's it? 210 to 205 as of recording this.
Yeah, it's a tough. Yeah,
oh,
5 games
man.
up. There's multiple things going on with the Daily Picks Challenge, and there's only like 13 days left or so. So sorry, there's like 12 days left after this. So it's gonna be a tough road. So pray for either one of your boys, man. One of us are gonna have to deal with some dire consequences. So
yeah, man.
Again,
just a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. Again, the different content. We're going to be trying to upload more, and we're going to be more locked in when the playoffs come around. So be on the lookout for that. On our personal channels, on the Hit Your Free Throws page, all that good stuff. You want to be following all of that. All those links will be found in the description down below. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember to check out again our personal social medias in the links down below. Our social media, our Hit Your Free Throws social media, TikTok and Instagram. Make sure you show love on the YouTube. Make sure you show love on the podcast networks. And yeah, we're going to be back again with another episode next week discussing playoff X factors. You're going to be able to look over that for next week as well. But yeah, we reached the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is TV. This is Jay signing out. Peace.